and welcome to my channel, Sink Me Out of Debt. I am Chantal, and my channel is dedicated to a couple things. One of which is taking you on my journey of getting out of debt using digital form of sinking funds and cash envelope systems in order to mitigate that, as well as saving up for the other part of what my channel is about. If you are new to my channel, welcome. You may want to go back and look at some of my other videos. I am a domestic abuse survivor. I have lived my entire life with my mother, who is an abusive narcissist. I have survived physical, medical, financial, emotional, psychological, spiritual, or religious abuses in their multiple forms. Today's video is especially dedicated to anyone who's like me, who may still be living in an abusive situation, or if you happen to know anyone or suspect anyone who is. Today's video is a video of survival, and even though I have not gotten out yet, I'm well on the way to doing so. I'll be back next week with more financial videos, but the video I had recorded for today, it just felt superficial and not really necessary. There are many different aspects to breaking free of an abusive situation. You have to be cunning, you have to be sneaky, you have to be careful, you have to do things that you may not have ever imagined you having to do. So today I wanted to try to share with anyone who could use this information what you have to do to break free of a domestic violence situation. This is not necessarily going to apply to every person who's watching it. I am coming from the standpoint where I am a single woman. I do not have children. I know that when children are part of it, that there are a lot more complications added to it, because there's also custody that may be an issue. There's many different aspects. But if you are someone like me, or even if you're not, I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, these tips and this advice may help someone. After 3 years of therapy, the first thing I want to say is, no matter what your abuser has said, none of this is your fault. And I know it's not easy to believe that, especially if you have been a victim for an extended period of time. It is really hard to truly hold within you and truly come to believe that the things that you have been put through were no fault of your own, because we're constantly told it is our fault. That maybe if we weren't so lazy, or maybe if we weren't overweight, or maybe if we weren't so ugly, look at the things we make them do. But it's not. I am in a somewhat fortunate position where I am financially independent from my abuser. I know that it's not something that many abuse victims can say. Those who are allowed to work often have their money taken from them. So today I wanted to talk about some tips that might help you break free sooner. Let's talk about the important aspects of formulating your escape plan. And I wish it wasn't necessary to make this video. For those who have never been in a domestic violence situation, there are not that many resources for us. Not really. Usually when domestic violence survivors are escaping their situation, they are usually not only psychologically and physically damaged and depleted due to their abuse, but they are typically without resources. Domestic violence abusers have a tendency to isolate you from anyone who cares about you. So you're alone and you have nowhere to go. Some domestic violence abusers will put tracking apps on your phones or tracking devices. It's important that if you are somebody who is a victim of an abuser who is technologically savvy, some will put cameras in the home to watch their victims day in and day out to ensure that they are doing what they are required to do. I want you to be aware and be mindful that there are now tracking dots that abusers can get. These can be something as simple and as rudimentary as a device that you can order from Apple or Google that are meant to track packages. But many abusers are finding them beneficial for the purposes of tracking their victims. These can be hidden on cars, in personal effects. You may want to be careful to check clothing, purses, shoes, anything of that nature that may have been tampered with and had these tracking dots potentially installed. There are things that you can get on sites such as Amazon that will allow you to locate bugs or hidden cameras, and that you can order these things if you have the ability to do so. If you do not, I recommend looking at YouTube videos, because there are a number of YouTubers that talk about finding these things. You can find and reach out to YouTubers or technologically savvy people who can even try to help you locate and disable cameras in the home. There are many technologically savvy people in the world, especially on YouTube. It never hurts to send an email to a YouTuber if you can. Part of your escape plan, number one, is gaining your technological independence. You do this first and foremost by setting up a hidden email address. If you cannot do this on your phone or while you're on your phone because your abuser has put tracking apps on your phone, what you may want to try to do is trick your abuser into allowing you to go to the library. Find an excuse. Find a reason. While you're in the library, your abuser is not going to be able to track your movements if you're using a computer. Use that computer to set up this hidden email address and start reaching out to people who may be able to help you. See if you can use other people's phones or other people's computers. Go to a neighbor, ask them if you can use a computer or something in their house. You want to try to find people around you that you can trust. This can be online or it can be in person. Again, the online factor would come in so long as your abuser is not using tracking apps, because if they are, they will likely be able to access your online activity. They will likely be able to find anything that you're looking up. They will likely be able to find anyone that you're talking to. There are apps that you can put on a phone that literally record every keystroke that you type into your phone. The hardest part with abusers is that so much of their activity is hidden. They're really good at manipulating. If they weren't masters at doing this, they never would have gotten you. So keep in mind that there are maybe people that they're friendly with or anyone that they interact with, because these people are less likely to help you or believe you when you reach out for help. You want to find people in person who are going to have your back, because now not only are you having to become sneaky and cunning and careful, so will they. This is the beginning of your getting out. Next, while you gain your technological independence in order to reach out for help and allies and start building a circle of people around you who you can at the very least talk to and can hook you up with resources. That is the primary important aspect. The next part is gaining financial independence. So, we've talked about the technological aspect of which all of this stuff applies. How do you gain financial independence? For those who are allowed to work outside their home and their significant other takes their money, this will likely require difficult conversation with your employer. If you are paid by direct deposit, and again, this is if you work for an employer who is not affiliated with your abuser, you need to have a difficult conversation with them and tell them you need a percentage of your pay to go into a separate banking account. Depending on what your pay is, keep in mind this may open you up to backlash. So I want you to be extremely careful. If you have a set paycheck and your abuser knows what that looks like, you may have to wait until the new year when your pay changes. So I encourage you to have this difficult conversation with your employer before that happens. So if your employer is going through a transition where they are increasing your pay, or if they're going through a transition where they are changing your hours or anything of that nature, make sure that whatever change you're doing here happens in conjunction with pay changes, if you can. If you can being the operative word. Because if you do it with a pay change, it's less likely to be picked up by your abuser, because they'll see that a change is already being made. Say you get a pay increase. Well, as your pay increases, so do your tax rates. So it's entirely possible that if your pay goes up, your income may go down and be less than it was before. Okay? Talk to your employer and ask them to put some percentage. I recommend doing a small percentage, anywhere from 5 to 10% of your paycheck into a separate banking account. Now here is where the dawn of the internet has been a miraculous thing, especially for people who are in domestic violence situations. And this is why I do my sinking funds in a digital format. I use fake money on my channel to demonstrate what I'm doing so that I do not have cash that can be discovered and stolen. There are online bank accounts. And again, this works if you have direct deposit and you are working. Okay? Have that money be put into a separate banking account that's linked only to you, and start saving up that 5 to 10% and leave it there. That is going to your emergency fund. Okay? But again, this is if you work outside the home. If you are not allowed to work, or if your abuser heavily restricts what you can do for work, you have to find ways to earn money, especially if you are someone who has children and you and your children are going to have to get out. You will also need to consult legal advice, especially if you have children together with your abuser, because you are going to need legal assistance when it comes to fighting for custody and when it comes time to get out of the situation without being looked upon negatively in a court of law. So if you do not work outside the home, if you're not allowed to, there are a few ways that you can earn money on the side or keep money on the side. And I'm going to forewarn you that this may not apply to everyone. The first and foremost is if you are sent for groceries. If you can, take out cash withdrawals with the grocery purchase. This will only work if you do grocery shopping in person. This will not work if you do something like Instacart or ordering your groceries online. I'm just forewarning you. Keep in mind also that there are banks that if you take out cash out of the fund or out of the card, they will list that cash withdrawal separately than your grocery order. So just be very careful. Make sure to check with any banking institutions that if you take out cash, does it go into the grocery order itself, or do they list it as a separate line item? Because if they list it as a separate line item, you can be really fucked. If you're able to take out cash, most, if not all, grocery stores have a bank within the store. If you can take some extra time and set up an account, and the moment you take out this cash, deposit this cash into this account and have it set aside, it will be your lifeline. Make sure when you set up the account, and I'm going to forewarn you, this can also be heavily risky. But this is also where this gaining technological and social independence part will come in hand. The bank will need your address. The bank will need your phone number. If you have established a connection with somebody in person that you trust, preferably someone who lives nearby, have the mail sent to their address and give the bank their phone number. Again, this is someone that you want living nearby, that you can make excuses to go over to their home on a regular basis, something along those lines. Say that the post office delivered some of the home's mail to the neighbor instead of you, and they were bringing it over or something of that nature. You're going to have to be extremely sneaky. Your life depends on it. Do not, under any circumstances, give them your phone number or your address, because that means that they will reach out to you from time to time. They will mail you statements. They will call your number. This account is strictly to have deposits only. And the reason why I'm emphasizing to give out them somebody else's address and phone number is because while I was doing my own research, a woman had said she had gone to a bank. She had told them what her situation was, that they weren't to send anything to the house. They weren't to call her under any circumstances. And then one day, a jackass at the bank called. Her abuser found out about this hidden account, dragged her down there, forced her to take everything out and close the account, and then beat her within an inch of her life. Please take added measures to be careful. The digital banks only work with checks and direct deposit. So your only other potential recourse is if you need to move the money from this account to a digital bank, is to have this bank write a check out to you for the amount you're taking out, and then you can direct deposit it into this digital bank. So keep in mind that's also a possibility. In this way, if your abuser ever found out about this account, they wouldn't be able to get any sort of money or anything, because you can squirrel it away in this digital bank that they don't necessarily have to know anything about. With the digital bank, you may want to, when you set it up, no ATM card. This should be something that if you cannot hide it, and hide it well, you should only get this when you're absolutely planning to leave, so that you have access to the money, okay? Same with this account. Don't get an ATM card, or if they give you one, destroy it, put it somewhere else. You may have to get creative and bury your documents Now, what does that mean? Your social security number, birth certificate, bank cards, any of these important things that will be necessary when you leave, your credit cards, anything of that nature. You may need to find a place to hide this stuff where your abuser does not go. If you cannot make a safe place within the home, take up gardening. Take up planting things in the yard, or act like you're going out and doing weeding in the yard or something of that nature, especially if they have cameras outside the home. Find a Ziploc bag, coffee can, something that will keep these documents safe from water. Put them in something like that and bury them, quite literally, but make sure you remember where you put them. If your abuser has these things and refuses to give them to you, keep in mind that when you're going to leave, you may need to order these documents online in order to get new copies of them. Now, the next and probably the hardest part you will likely have to come to realize. You will not be able to bring all your possessions with you. Next is physical escape. Once you are ready, once you have the ability to break free, part of this money that you have saved up, you need to get a burner phone. Because when you leave, the phone that you have to be ready to abandon it. So make sure you store important numbers or memorize them, or both, because that's going to be your lifeline when you get out. Keep in mind, and I know this can be very hard, but keep in mind that possessions are just things. You have to be ready and know that the likelihood that you are going to be able to take all of your possessions with you is very unlikely, especially if your escape route has to be quick. So the next most crucial thing of gaining your physical independence is packing a run bag. You want primarily maybe a couple changes of clothes. You want to be able to layer what you're wearing. If by some miracle you are able to put aside enough money to buy your own vehicle, that, it doesn't have to be a great car, but it has to be able to be something that your abuser does not know about, and it has to be something that you can store somewhere nearby so that when it's time to go, you can go. But know that a vehicle is not the most important part here. The most important part here is getting out. Your burner phone, be prepared in case you need Uber. You should be able to get bus tickets, train tickets, or both somewhat easily. When you're going to run, that's when you want to make sure you have your ATM/debit card, because that's going to be important. You're going to want your money then. So make sure on the burner phone you have all of that stuff stored and set up. You can also set up a PayPal account. Make sure you have all of your account information linked up to it. Cash App, Venmo, whatever you need. If your abuser doesn't let you work out of the home, you're going to have to earn money very subtly. Sell cookies. Sell feet pics if you can do things online. As long as that camera issue is not an issue, do like little yard sales when your abuser isn't around, if you can. You're going to have neighbors who are going to talk about it. You don't want to do that, but you can sell items through Facebook and through many social media sources. I personally do digital sales through Etsy. It's an added way that I save money. If you do tarot card readings or oracle card readings, set up an Etsy store, set up a YouTube channel, set up a TikTok. You can start generating some form of income through those. You can absolutely sell feet pics online. Some people will pay rather handsomely for that stuff. Find a way. Your safety, your survival, your getting out is most important. Just make sure that anything you do, any way that you save up money and earn money is hidden. and make sure that it cannot be traced. And when you're ready to go, run and don't ever look back. I know on average it takes a victim 7 tries before they finally succeed in leaving their abuser. Try to break that statistic. Next week I will be back with more financial aspects of things that I'm personally doing. I hope, if nothing else, this may help somebody like me. If you know and love somebody who is in a domestic violence situation, wait until they're ready to talk to you. The websites that I have found, I'm going to link down below in the description under this video. There are resources. There's additional advice that I did not cover. I recommend that you read them, find ways to escape. So with all of that said, and until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and know that you're loved.